Well, I don't think any literary agents are going to accept my novel. And actually, I'm very excited with some things I have learned. So I've sent it off to 6 or 7, maybe 8, I don't know. And all of them, except for one, I think, are now outside of the time period in which they say, if you haven't heard from us by, in 6 weeks, usually, we're not responding. And most of them have not responded at all. One was very nice and sent an automatic rejection letter that gave me no details, but just said, we've decided not to go forward with your novel. But finally, I got a personalized rejection letter from someone. And I'm so excited because this whole time, all this radio silence, it just drives me nuts because I have no idea what's going on, has gotten me worried. It's gotten me thinking, okay, are they reading my novel excerpt and not liking that? Or is there something about my query letter that turns them off so they don't even make it to my novel, right? Because if my novel is legitimately not good, I can fix that, right? I can edit it, I can work on it, I can make it better, or I can scrap it and start over. That's not the end of the world. But if my query letter is stopping people from even looking at my novel, then I don't know if my novel is good or not. And that is something I just need to know. But finally, I got this personalized rejection letter, and the agent who wrote it said, I read your excerpt and your prose just doesn't resonate with me, is what she says. Doesn't resonate, which I take to mean is not good. She didn't say that. She said, send it to other agents. Every author deserves to have an agent who loves what was written. But that's fine. But if it didn't resonate, okay, there's probably a problem. And so I've stopped sending out queries. I've stopped. There's one still outstanding. Like I said, maybe I'll get a surprise there, but probably not. And I've been backing up and saying, how can I make it better? And one of my very first vlogs, if that's what this is, I talked about the difference between writers and authors and how I've always been a writer. I just love to write. I love to write. I think I have a very nice style. I think I'm very good at it. But authors construct the shape of the story, and you have to do that first, and then you do the writing to fill it in. And all of my learning, all of the online classes I've taken, all of the practice I've been doing, everything I've been learning so far has been on becoming a better author. And I finally succeeded in authoring a book, right? And I've just been so excited to send it out that I haven't really thought about the writing at all. And if it's not resonating, maybe it's not good. And when I think about it, I have tried to edit it, but there just comes a point when you just can't reread your words a fourth time. You just can't. And so I just sent it off because this is as good as I can get it. And I legitimately believed I have reached the end of myself. There is nothing more I can do for this book. But I keep hearing about this technique that was apparently used in classical education when people wanted to learn about literature and become good writers long ago, which was you get a great book, a legitimately great work of literature, probably, I would assume, in Latin or Greek, right? You pick up some Cicero or Homer or Caesar, and you take the book and you take blank paper and you copy it by hand, word for word. And this apparently makes you a better writer. And I've always rejected it because I'm like, I'm a good writer. I don't need help with that. I need help on the author part, right? But I'm retracting that. I'm repenting, as it were. And I started out just Amazon previews of books I've loved and just copying the first page in a notebook, and was amazed how much I learned about the books I love. I'm not copying classic literature because that's not what I'm trying to write. I'm trying to find modern authors whose voices I really love, who I can learn something from. And so I've been copying the first pages. And there is one book, maybe this is embarrassing. I don't know. I'm not embarrassed by it. My wife is a little embarrassed by this. But a couple of years ago, I read a book called Love Walked In by Marisa De Los Santos, which is not at all the sort of book I'm trying to write. But that book, reading it is like just sinking into a warm bubble bath. It is just so wonderful. And Marisa De Los Santos, the person who wrote it, she's a poet. She's published a book of poetry. She studied poetry. She has a PhD, I think, in poetry, but she just wrote this novel, right? And then she wrote a sequel, which is also awesome. And I just loved it. The words just like gold and diamonds dripping from her fingers, right? So I have started, this is Love Walked In, and I am writing it by hand in this little notebook. And you can see I've gotten a ways into it, but I certainly still have a long ways to go. And as I'm going, I don't know if this shows up, there are red parts I am highlighting. These are not mistakes she made. These are parts where like, I remember this. I read this book like probably 5 years ago, and there are these salient descriptions. I'm like, oh, that's where that comes from. Like, I use this phrase sometimes in my real life now because it stuck with me. And I'm just trying to pay attention to how she does what she does. How much description does she use? How much dialogue does she use? What's the balance? And it's forcing me to analyze her words, which I love, in a way I've never done before. And so this got me thinking, what if I copy my own novel by hand and see what I discover? And I didn't really want to waste all the paper to copy it by hand, but I printed it off. And what I do is I have this manila folder with the first 40 pages of my novel in it. And I grab a page, and I have a pen that I have, like clicky pen, and clicked so it's not writing, right? And then just on my knee, when I'm on the bus on the way home, I write, spell out every word as I read. And you know what happened? Here's the first page. That looks like a failed English paper, right? Here's another page, random one. Whoa, that doesn't look great. Here's another page. Practically every page I am finding so many problems with, so many things I can fix. I'm finding all kinds of stuff. I have yet to find a page that doesn't get any comments. Here's a light one, right? This one did pretty good, but still not publishable good, right? And so I'm going through and I'm finding so many things, and I am able finally to engage with my own writing in a way I never have before, because I've always been so focused on the structure, on the shape of it, the arc, the characters, what are they? And I've got that now, and I'm just going to breathe and believe I've got that, and that's set, and that the story is fine, and that the writing is holding people back from liking it. And so I'm going through word by word, and if when I'm writing it, pretending to write it on my knee on the bus, it doesn't feel good, or I can think of a better way to write it, I'm fixing it. And so I'm going to go through these 40 pages, and I'm going to update them. And I'm going to keep copying Marisa De Los Santos to try to keep my mind full of good writing, right? Not just my own bad writing. And I'm excited. I think it's going to work. I think this might be what gets me there. And if it isn't, I assume I'll discover something else when I'm done with this. But this project's going to take me a really long time. Both projects. This, I don't expect to finish before the end of the year. This, I'm hoping, these 40 pages, I'm hoping to have them done by the end of the month so I can submit them as a novel excerpt to Writers of the Future, which is this writing contest I keep coming back to for validation. But this time, maybe if I can get the writing right, I'll do okay there. Anyway, it was a longer than normal video. Thanks for sticking with me, and let's see what happens next.